Hello everybody! Thanks so much for being here. I'm super excited for today's video. Since Valentine's Day is right around the corner, I figured it was pretty appropriate to kind of stick with that theme. So I wanted to kind of, look for stories that were like, scary stories about Valentine's Day and stuff like that. And then I came across like the origins of Valentine's Day, and that's pretty different from how things are. If you are new here, my name is Shyla and this is La La Land. If you have not done so already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Make sure you ring that notification bell. If you do like story times, let me know by clicking that like button. So I'm going to go from this to this using all drugstore or affordable makeup. I will list all of the products that I use in today's video down below. But yeah, I'm super excited to tell you guys this crazy story. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so all original holidays, or like the holidays, originated from like paganism, like pagan holidays. So Valentine's Day actually originated, it was not Valentine's Day. It starts as Lupercalia. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm definitely going to put like the name up on the screen for you guys. But Lupercalia is the pagan celebration for like fertility, for, not just for procreation, but also for their crops and stuff like that. So what that festival represents and the story that it kind of tells is of the twin brothers, Reymus and Romulus. So their mother is Rhea Sylvia, and her family were, her father was a king. So way back in the day, I think it was like 2nd or 3rd century, there was a king named Numitor, and his brother was Amuleus. I will put it up on the screen. But Amuleus, he took over power of the kingdom from his brother, and he had sons, I think 3 sons and a daughter, and he killed the nephews. So the 3 nephews he killed, and because he didn't want his brother to have any heirs to the throne. And then the niece, he let her live. Her name was Rhea Sylvia. He let her live, but she had to take a vow of chastity. So she pretty much went and she was like the life of a nun. And that way she was able to live, but since she took that vow, she could never marry, never have children or anything like that, or she would be put to death. So Mars, the war god, takes Rhea to Timber River, and which is a vast river, and it has like 3 rivers flow into it, so it's like a lot going on. And he tells her, "You're going to have my children," and she says, "I can't have children. I've taken a vow of chastity. If I have children, they'll put me to death." And he just lets her know, this is a huge sacrifice that you're going to make for the future, from what our children are going to bring the world, the greatness that they'll bring. So pretty much forced her to have his children. And from there, she just went on living her life, but had to hide under her robes her growing stomach. And then her uncle found out that she was pregnant, and after she had not only 1 but 2 baby boys, she was thrown in the river the day after labor, so utterly exhausted. So she was put to death by being thrown into the river, the Timber River. And the babies, the uncle couldn't handle the thought of killing babies or children, so he had his servant do it for him. So he just told him, "Get rid of them and let me know when the deed is done." The servant felt bad doing this to babies, so he decided to put them in a basket and float them down the river. From there, and this is Romulus and Reymus. So there's these 1-day-old infants that are floating down the river, and they get rescued by a she-wolf, so a female wolf, and she takes them to her cave. And this female wolf, her name is Lupa, and she raises the babies and feeds them. And, you know, there's actually a statue of the situation. I'll definitely post a picture of it, but it shows how she fed them and, you know, raised them. And so in the cave, she's raising these infants. Sorry. These infants, and as they're growing, a shepherd comes across the cave, and he, you know, like, sees that she's like being protective of these babies. She's not going to hurt these babies. She's protecting these babies, raising them. And then she allows the shepherd to take these boys and raise them. Long story short, there's a whole situation with Romulus and Reymus, and it's like a huge thing. So anyways, long story short, they find out what their birthright is, and they are the founders of Rome eventually, right? Romulus kills Reymus, and then he continues on with trying to build Rome up. He actually, to build the city, he had a bunch of soldiers from getting the kingdom back from his uncle and all of that, but they needed women to continue on with the city because you can't grow without women. So he decides to eventually just kidnaps the, I think they're called Sapine women, from, which is like the next like kingdom or village, town, place. So they decide to kidnap those women from the next village, and that's how they start to grow. So rather than having a huge war and killing everybody, they decide to coexist and move forward from there. And that is what Lupercalia is supposed to represent. So let me get started on my makeup a little bit. Okay, so Lupercalia is a 3-day long festival. So, and it is actually in February, but back in the day, way back in the way back time, okay, so way back in the day, way back then, February was actually the end of the year. So that's like marks the end of winter for them. And then spring is, for pagans, is, you know, in March when that starts after February. So February 13th, 14th, and 15th, there's a 3-day festival called Lupercalia. And they, this festival is for, you know, fertility and good crops and all of that for the next year to come. So it's pretty much like their big New Year's party, all of that good stuff. So pagans have very, well, I guess for them, obviously it's not very strange, but for us nowadays, they have really, really strange rituals. So the rituals that start Lupercalia, I say it so weird, Lupercalia. I'm gonna put it up there again. Okay, so 2 Lupercalia priests, after sacrificing 2 goats and a dog, they would get naked and they would use the blade they used to sacrifice the animals to, like, I don't know, like, I feel like almost like Eskimo kiss, you know, like how they put their nose together and, or whatever, but they like put their foreheads together, and like between the foreheads was the blade, and it would just like run the blood across their foreheads. And then from there, what they would do is they would take the hides of the goats and they would cut that into thin strips and called thongs. So that, I think maybe that's where those came from, if you think about it. And with those thongs, they would line, maybe, I don't know if they necessarily lined the women up, but it was like during the festival, women between the, or people, but women between the ages of 15 and 30 would get whipped by these bloody, freshly skinned hide strip thong things, because that was going to make them more fertile for the next year, obviously. So these women would volunteer, and like, again, this is their belief that this is what's going to help them be fertile for the next year, not only for children and having, you know, babies, but also having a good crop that year. So they would run around naked with the Lupercalia priests, and they would be whipped by these thongs. And then they would, you know, like whip the ground for like, for that to grow. And then they would whip like the crop or like the fields for that to grow, and be healthy and fruitful. And they would whip the trees and all of that with these bloody goat thongs. So that like, I don't know, that right there just goes to show like how different the belief system has changed around it, obviously. But yeah, so that was one of the rituals. They would also, put the names of the females in a jar, like a big jar, and then the men would draw a name out, and then that's who you would spend the festival of Lupercalia with. And then you can choose from that point to spend the next year with them. Hopefully you're able to make a baby. Well, okay, I think what it is after the festival, if you decide to spend that next year to the next festival together, then by the next Lupercalia, those two are usually married. So it's almost like a blind, like a speed dating origin, like the original speed dating, or like, I don't know, like Married at First Sight. Have you ever seen that show? It's one of my favorite shows. It's really, really good. It's kind of like that, but yeah, so I think that's kind of sweet. I like the whole, you know, like, oh, you just like we met at Lupercalia, what a like story for the grandkids, right? Okay, so obviously I'm trying something new with the eye look. This is kind of difficult. Anyways, so that is Lupercalia. So it starts with the two priests in a cave with the blood on the forehead and the sacrificed animals with, oh, I'm sorry, one part of the ritual between the priests and the blood and the knife and everything, after they do the knife across the forehead, they share a traditional or a ceremonial laugh together while standing there bloody and naked, and before they hide, like, skin some animals. I'm sorry if that's a trigger warning, you guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so then it's like, okay, so how do we call it Valentine's Day? Like, how do you get from Lupercalia to Valentine's Day? So I do not know a lot about a lot of religious history and stuff like that. From my understanding, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, please. But please don't get mad at me if I'm not trying to disrespect, if I'm disrespectful in any way. Okay, so eventually, as time goes on, I want to say they celebrated Lupercalia for like 1,000 years or something like that. But as time went on, it kind of, you know, went from being like the women being whipped with bloody thongs made from freshly skinned animals to being, if they just, you know, got slapped on the hand or on the wrist or whatever. I don't know exactly where the women are whipped, but either way you're being whipped. Like, I'm sure it's not like, well, I don't know, some people like it, like, no, have at it, you know, do you. But I don't know, from my understanding, these rituals were not like the most gentle thing in the world, right? So it went from that to being, you know, like smacked on the hand, and priests were in robes and all of that, you know, like the cloaks and everything. So it did eventually like calm down and everything, but then that becomes eventually, you know, Catholic Church, Christianity. Okay, so Pope Galasius, I'll put the name and the time frame. He decided that the celebration of Lupercalia was not Christian. And it went against Christianity. And he wanted to go forward celebrating Saint Valentine, who was actually, like, there's 2 or 3 men. I've seen up to 3, so I'm going to tell you all about all 3 men who were actually executed on February 14th. So, and that is literally right between the middle date of the Lupercalia dates. So 13th, 14th, and 15th is Lupercalia, and then Saint Valentine's Day is February 14th. Okay, so Emperor Claudius the Second decided that he did not want his guards to get married, because if they got married, they wouldn't want to be at war as long, and they'd want to come home and have a family and all of that. So he was not allowing his men to be married. And soldiers, after, you know, like 7 years at war, got to the point where, like, yeah, we want women, we want to be married. So Saint Valentine is a Christian priest who secretly would marry the soldiers, and that and because of that, he was put to death on February 14th. Okay, sorry, this eye look was a little complicated, so I just wanted to freaking get this part done so I can move on with my life. Okay, so going forward, so the first Saint Valentine was, so he was marrying the soldiers so they could, like, you know, have a line and all of that good stuff. So the second Saint Valentine that I read about, he was he was helping Christians escape Roman prisons. And when he was captured, he was imprisoned, but one of the guards' daughters who would come to visit, I want to say he taught her how to read, as well as and like he fell in love with her, and they would write little letters back and forth to each other. And before he was executed, he signed his last letter to her, "From your Valentine," because his name was Valentine. So that's where that all is supposed to come from. You know, love letters for Valentine's Day, all of that. And he was, again, another Valentine. I guess back then it was like a popular name, like Robert, or I don't know, John down the street, or whatever, Jim. So Valentine was a very popular name back then, so that's why there's so many. And then the third Valentine is, so the third Saint Valentine was actually his name. I want to say he's the oldest one or something like that, but his name is actually Valentinus, and he was imprisoned, and he was I want to say he's a Christian priest, because he would say that he was leading pagans out of the shadows of darkness, paganism, and into the light of salvation, which is Christianity in their eyes. And he, but he would not stop preaching. So, one of the Roman guards brought his daughter who was blind and told him, if you can heal her, I will convert. And he did. He ended up healing her, and the guard, I want to say, started to you know, take his word for it, because obviously his daughter could see. Like, she could see everything. She was born blind, and this made a believer out of him. So once, like, I don't know, the warden or whoever was in charge of that, he put him to death, and that was on supposedly February 14th. So that's why we celebrate Valentine's Day, or St. Valentine's Day, on February 14th, because it was stolen from the pagans. But their holiday was much different. So there's that. So what, I don't know, I'm trying to do like a pretty like Valentine's Day look. A couple cool facts that I learned about Valentine's Day, and honestly I was just trying to look for like scary, you know, like stories from Valentine's Day, or maybe even like true crime cases for Valentine's Day, and this is what I came across, and I thought it was pretty interesting because I had never heard of Valentine's like this before. Obviously I knew it originated from somewhere, and I've always known, maybe not always known, but I've known for a long time that our holidays originated from a lot of pagan holidays. And one thing that I found out, so again, I don't know a lot about like religious history and stuff like that, so like I really was learning so much with this whole, with the research of this whole topic. And it's a bloody history, man. Like the whole story of like Reymus and Romulus, like it starts off like, so like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, that statue of the wolf with the toddlers, that's kind of like a really, I don't know, it's odd, I guess, you know, like they were cool with it, so I'm not anyone to judge, but man, it's a weird statue. Again, I'll put a picture of it up. There's a couple different, actually in Rome, because Romulus and Remus are founders of Rome, that statue is like all over the place apparently, and it's like really famous. Whoa, I didn't even do my lower lids. Can't even finish my eye lip. Don't put cream over powder. Yeah, so Romulus and Reymus, their story is pretty sad. Their mom's story is really tragic and sad, but they were destined for greatness, and they did found Rome, even though it tore them apart, and one ended up killing the other, and then still just kind of being like not the best leader, with how he decided to get women to the village and all of that. Kind of the same situation that his mother went through. But yeah, I could honestly do like a whole episode just talking about Romulus and that whole situation. And I love like Greek mythology and all of that. It's super interesting to me. So I really did enjoy reading about this topic. But I did find out there's like some history about what's the little fat guy, what is his name? What? Oh, Cupid. Yeah, so he hasn't always been like a fat little baby. He was actually kind of, he represented like chaos and like not love, and like, yeah, he could like make people fall in love, but it was mostly like Kind of like he was like a succubus type of person. And then eventually the Christian church wanted to, you know, lighten that up and make it like a better situation. So he became that fat little baby with, you know, the phallic shaped arrow that shoots you in the butt and you fall in love and all of that good stuff. And so that was pretty cool. I didn't know that he was actually like a little demon before. So that was, again, a new learning experience. I haven't like always, I don't know, like with my previous life, romance wasn't like a big thing, but I don't know, with my life now, like I don't necessarily feel like I need Valentine's Day. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't need Valentine's Day to show my love and all that stuff. I'm like, if that's how you are, then that's great. Like if you don't need a holiday to let your loved one know how much you love them and, you know, a date to be romantic with each other and all of that, like if that's not what you need, then that's awesome. But some people like that. And, you know, people out there have like 4+ children or multiple children or even just one child and don't get out very often. So they kind of appreciate days like Valentine's Day, which is no longer a huge mating ritual or like a huge execution situation, but more of like, obviously the candy companies and Hallmark made hella money. Like I guess Valentine's Day is actually the is Hallmark's second most lucrative holiday, and first is of course Christmas. So Valentine's Day, obviously the card and candy company make it a huge thing, and maybe that's why people like hate the stigma of it. But again, a lot of people do like the idea of like, it's just a night to like have an excuse to go out with your loved ones and you know, have a date. Start, you know, date your wife, date your husband, date your spouse. It's just nice to have that. But again, if that's not something that you need in your marriage and you guys have the opportunity to, or in your relationship, you guys have the opportunity to go on dates, and that is super awesome. And I'm so excited for you guys. But I would love to hear what your plans are for Valentine's Day. I hope we can go on a date. That would be obviously the tits, but me and Corey, I don't know, our idea of romance honestly could just be like us cuddling in bed watching Harry Potter. Oh, okay, awesome. So speaking of Harry Potter, I don't know, do we like this look? Is it cute? Am I done? Do I need to put on my lips? Okay, so anyways, I tried that little TikTok hack. Anyway, so the cool thing about Harry Potter and Romulus and Reymus, I don't know if the name Reymus is ringing a bell for you or not, but again, that's something that me and Corey really love is Harry Potter, and that name was just random. I'm like, where do you know the name Reymus from? I know this Reymus. Do we know a Reymus? I keep like it. I know I'm doing a story, Romulus Reymus, and I keep hearing that name, but I know it's something. And Corey was just like, yeah, Reymus Lupin. So Lupin, the werewolf, his first name is Reymus. And then when he is like undercover and he's like on that little like radio station with the twins and Lee Jordan, his like code name is Romulus. So Reymus, Romulus, he's a werewolf. Lupa, oh yeah, his last name's Lupin, and the she-wolf, her name was like Lupa and Lupercalia. I'm just saying, he's wrapped up in it. I just think that's so cool. I love it when little things like that are so clever. It just makes your brain explode and it's exciting. I like stuff like that. So yeah, that is the original or origins of Valentine's Day and how it started and where we've come. I think definitely we've come a long way. We don't whip anymore, but yeah, Valentine's Day. I don't know. I think there's still a lot of like fertility and procreation. Ew. Is it okay to use that word? I don't know. That comes with Valentine's Day just because it is, you know, supposed to be so romantic and people go on dates and then they go home and they're feeling romantic and, you know, and that's how, you know, people spend Valentine's Day a lot. Sometimes you just let it pass and all of that good stuff. But we're talking about the origins of Valentine's Day, where it started, where we're at now. Big difference, but kind of ended up the same way if you think about it. Another cool thing, so apparently the original colors were for Valentine's Day, or the representation of it was red and white. White would represent, part of Lupercalia is they would use goat's milk soaked, like wool soaked in goat's milk to wash the blood off of the Lupercalia priests that started the first rituals and all of that. So that's how you get the color white, because that's supposed to be represent purification and milk, mother's milk, the milk of Lupa for Romulus and Reymus, and then of course red, which is to represent the blood of the sacrifice for Lupercalia and all of that. So super cool. Red and white mixed together is pink, so that's why I mixed a little pink in my look today. But yeah, I hope you guys found this information really interesting. I think it's so cool, and I love doing deep dives on little things like this. This is definitely not what I was expecting to do today's video on. I really was looking for like a true crime situation, or like maybe like a scary story, but I don't know. This is definitely super cool and super interesting to me. Let me know down below what you guys think about it. Again, thanks so much for spending your time with me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Happy Valentine's Day, however you choose to spend it. And yeah, don't forget, if you are single and it is Valentine's Day, love yourself. Get yourself some freaking roses. Get yourself some chocolates. Get yourself some beautiful jewelry. You don't need a partner to make you feel loved on a certain day of the year. Do that for yourself. And again, just like for couples that need that day because they have the kids or busy work schedules or whatever it is that stop them, they love the idea of having a date, then why not have that for yourself? Take yourself on a date. I'm just saying, you deserve it. You should love you. And yeah, again, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Happy Valentine's Day. Don't forget to love you. Bye-bye.